so we're going to do an example 1 using the law of sines to solve a triangle. We're also going to use some other information that we have and talk about how to store things and type them in our calculator. So a couple quick notes before we get started. Notice that this A is 41 degrees. So because of this, and in almost all of these problems, it's important that you make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, right? So that's going to matter. Especially if you're somebody who is also taking some kind of calculus or is doing anything with rotation. A lot of times you're going to be dealing with radian measure, and in AP Calc we certainly only do radian measure, but in these problems, you'll want to be in degree mode. So again, the first thing I do, and you don't have to start here, but I make a list of A, B, C, right? And I list what I know. I know A is 41 degrees. I do not know B. I do not know big C, right? Those are my angles. I know little a is 20, right? I know little b is 25. I do not know little c, right? So one of the reasons I do this is that the essential piece of information in order to use the law of sines is that you have a pair of the same letter. So this pair, right, this a and also having the other a, this tells me that I can use law of sines. And the law of sines is generally easier for most of us than the law of cosines. So if you have a pair, you want to use the law of sines. It also tells me that the thing I want to target to start is big B, because I can set up a ratio of the A stuff to the A stuff and the B stuff to the B stuff, and that's going to let me find big B. So let's go ahead and walk through that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find big B, and I'll do that over here. So I'm going to find big B, right? And in order to do that, I'm going to say that the sine of big B, which is the thing I don't know, over little b, which is a 25, equals the sine of 41 degrees, which my calculator will be able to give me, over little a, which is a 20. I'm going to solve for big B by multiplying the 25 over, so I'm going to get sine of big B is 25 sine of 41 degrees divided by 20. And then in order to solve for B, I'm going to use the inverse sine button in my calculator. So that's second and then the sine button. So inverse sine of 25 sine, in parentheses, 41. I don't actually put the degree symbol in my calculator because I'm in degree mode, right? Divided by 20. That's what I'm going to type in my calculator. And again, in this situation, the degrees are implied because I'm in degree mode. You should still write degrees when you're showing your work, but just to show you what I'm actually typing in, this is what I'm going to type, right? So I'm going to type this in my calculator. And when I do that, I get an answer for B that is approximately 55.092 degrees, but I'm going to store that as B. So just to show you how that looks when I put my calculator in front of you, right? So see, I typed in my information. I'm going to hit stow. The stow button right here is right above on. So I hit stow, and then I'm going to hit alpha and B. Now the reason I chose B is because in this problem it is B. You don't have to choose that. But the reason I'm calling that B is from here on out, I'm going to use that B that I have here to stand in place for big B. And that's going to matter because if you round early in a problem, sometimes your answers turn out slightly wrong because you used a rounded answer. So now I have 4 of the 6 things I need. The trick here is that in order to find big C, which is my next target, I'm going to use not the law of sines, but rather the fact that I know that the angles in a triangle always sum to 180. So the next thing I'm going to find, and I'll do it over here, is I'm going to find big C by recognizing that big C must be 180 minus whatever the other 2 angles sum to, so the quantity A plus B. Now, because I've already stored B in my calculator, I should use the stored B in my calculator. So what I'm going to type in my calculator is a 180 minus 41, if I distribute that negative, minus the thing I called B. So I'm going to do 180 minus 41 minus alpha B, and I get that my C is approximately 83.907 if I truncate, or 8 if I round. I don't care which one of those you write down as your answer, but as a teacher, I always write both, because I need to know that a student that put 7 is right and a student that put 8 is also right. But if somebody put a 9, they are wrong. So I'm also going to store this the same way that I stowed already. I'm going to store this as C. And the reason I'm going to do that is I need to use this C to find little c. So I'm going to hit stow alpha C, and now that's my C. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find little c. I'm going to find little c by using the easy ratio I originally started with, right, the A ratio, and setting it equal to the C ratio. So when I go to find little c, I'm going to say, oh, I want this little c, so A, 20 over sine of 41, which is a number my calculator can do, is c that I don't know over sine of the big C that I have stored, right? So even though they both look like they're unknowns, big C is actually stored. So when I multiply this over, I'm going to get that my little c is a 20 times the sine of the thing I called C divided by the sine of a 41. And again, when I type it in my calculator, I don't need to put a degree symbol because I'm already in degree mode. So I'm going to type in 20 sine of alpha C divided by sine of 41, which looks like that. And I'm going to hit enter, and that gives me my C, which is a 30.312, or 313, depending if you round or truncate. So a couple things to notice. First thing is I didn't store this, and the reason I didn't store this is because my actual C, or my C is my last value that I'm trying to find. So although it is also approximate, it doesn't matter because I don't need it again, right? So I'm not going to bother to store it. The second thing I want you to notice is that the biggest angle is always opposite the biggest side. So the 83 and change is the largest angle, and sure enough, the largest side is also C, which is the 30 point stuff. The next biggest angle is the 55, and sure enough, the 25 is the medium side, and the smallest angle is the 41, and the smallest side is the 20. So this is a good way to do a self-check that you haven't made a simple error when doing these calculations.